Hey there, it's Marley Major. Before we dig in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell because you definitely don't want to miss another glorious disaster here on Every Day's a Train Wreck. Because missing an episode, now that would be a train wreck. Let's get to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Every Day's a Train Wreck with your host, Marley Major. And I am so excited that we've got our bride, Ashley, our expat, who's from La La Land, but who's getting married in London. And this is episode 2 of kind of the chronicles of being a bride, living abroad, planning when your family is not right there with you. But may I say, when you have a fabulous planner supporting you, and we're chronicling the whole journey. Ashley is getting married next May 2026. And so this is episode 2. And we're going to focus on vision, budget, and reality check. So, Miss Ashley, welcome to the show. You knocked it out of the park for the first episode. People were loving the content. And I can't decide if they like just the dirt factor of like, oh, this is cool. Let's just see what this girl like goes through, or if it's, hey, I'm actually planning my wedding and these are great tips, because I mean, we know that's the case, but you get it. So what'd you think after your first taping?
It's fun to kind of talk through the process. I think we've made a lot of decisions somewhat quickly.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to kind of go through how we made those decisions and reaffirm that they were, I think, the right decisions.
Yeah. And
So
you're
yeah.
still engaged after the first one, right? I mean, we didn't
Yeah.
totally mess anything up.
Yeah.
Did it get
So
close?
no.
Okay.
Okay, one of those views was Matt, so
Wait, what? Oh, so
Matt
it,
shared he's the whole family seen it, so
oh, yay. Okay. But did he like it or no?
yes. I
Oh,
think
good.
it got the approval.
Okay, that's good. Okay, that's good. Those would be very good for our numbers. And since we are in, I think now 71 countries, if you would please tell Matt or anybody that he knows if they can listen to it in Wales, or like as soon as anybody crosses the border into a country, a random country, please just download for kicks so I can add a country to our list. So
Will
anyway,
do.
that's my public service announcement. All right. So we are going to jump in and talk about budget, because I wanted this whole series to be, yes, I wanted to interview you because you and I are working on this together, of course, with your sweet mom. But I also wanted it to be where people could actually like learn how to, they could like rewind. People could share with a friend. In fact, I encourage people to share it with anybody who's getting married or is about to get engaged, because there are like really practical tips in here. So let's kind of talk about setting the budget. How did you guys, I'm not going to ask you specifically what the budget is, but how did you do that these days? Because there's so many, I mean, there are literally a million ways you can go, right? I mean, traditionally, of course, the bride's family paid for everything, but that's often when the bride is 22. And, it's a completely different story now. And you have a great job and work and are not 22. And how did you guys kind of come up with this is what it's going to look like?
I think we had a rough sense of how much weddings cost. We decided to do a little bit of research first to get a sense of we had a sense of how many people we wanted to invite. And so
Yeah.
for that size, kind of how did location affect things, and just kind of got a sense of the market. I mean, it
Yeah.
ranged from, I emailed a few hotels just to get a sense. Some quoted me a minimum like 2-night buyout, like £200,000 a night minimum spend, which is
Yeah.
just astronomical.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
others were saying the grounds cost less than 10,000, but you have to bring in your own staff and kitchen and all
Yeah.
of these different things you have to price out. And then tents can really range as well, or marquees.
Yeah.
So we kind of just got a sense and then decided, I think we didn't want the budget to limit us, but we didn't want to overspend on something if we didn't need to. So we more so just kind of listed what was most important to us and picked a venue that kind of was in the middle of the road. And we also kind of outlined we really want a good band, and
Yeah.
so we allocated spending towards that. So, we didn't want everything to go to just the venue. That
Yes.
was important.
I think that's crucial because at first, at least when I first meet with clients, everything is so overwhelming, right? Like it,
Mhm.
especially when you start gathering prices and it can seem like, oh, okay, this is doable until you talk to somebody like me or,
Mhm.
you know, somebody's in the business who's going, whoa, whoa, whoa. Just like you said, you know, well, there, you might not have the 200,000 pound buyout a night, but at something else looks, wow, that looks a lot lower. But then you've got to bring everything in. And what people don't realize is like in LA, so many times people are like, oh, I'm going to have the wedding at home and have it in my parents' garden. And like, that's
Mhm.
amazing. It's personal. It's awesome. But what
Mhm.
people don't realize is you are recreating a ballroom basically, or you're basically like building a hotel practically in your
Mhm.
backyard, right? Because you have to bring in all the restrooms and you have to bring in the kitchen and all the logistics and the generators so that power doesn't go out. And then you're talking about tents or marquees there. And here, you know, tents in Southern California, tents are a dime a dozen. Now, they're not all dime a dozen in terms of quality, but we can get tents all day long. Now, this is where a planner is going to come in, where they're going to tell you, hey, you want to have the poles of the tent wrapped in V-Line because otherwise they're going to look like these nasty kind of metal poles, you know, or, and what's the quality type of the tent because they are not all the same. Some of them are white, but they're like white with mildew stains on them because the company is not particularly reputable. And so you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's so much cheaper with this rental company. And you're like, yeah, go take a look at the stuff or take a look at the wooden chairs that are all chipped, you know, and that kind of stuff matters. But I think that was really great working with you was you guys were really clear about where you wanted to spend money and where you
Mhm.
were like, not as big a deal. Now, one other place that at least I hear through the grapevine that you are looking to spend money is on the dress. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Yes. See, yours truly here, having been married twice and, you know, shows no sign of stopping, just like the winter snow. I would get married on a, you know, on a porch if I had to, if it meant I could still have a good dress. So I'm with you as far as that goes. I have never been one of those people who can go to the vintage store and like find something amazing and feel really good about it for something as important as a wedding. I know it's completely the trend and people some people are really really good at it. It is not me.
Mhm.
So, okay, so we know that band is really important and we know that dress is really important. What else was really important to you?
We wanted a venue that was naturally pretty, so we
Yes.
wouldn't have to spend a ton on decor. So I really want a good after party.
Yes. Okay. That was I remember that too. So it's
Yeah.
kind of for you, it's about the whole experience plus your experience in the dress. That's the net
Yeah,
net.
exactly.
Okay.
Like, the food doesn't have to be great. Drinks should be good. Drinks should
Yeah.
be good too.
Okay. And now also Ashley is about 95 pounds soaking wet. So you will never ever hear me say the food doesn't have to be good because I will be like, I am always starving. Okay. However, Ashley, so if you're going to go to Ashley's wedding, you're going to want to bring your own sandwich because as they say, Ashley's going to
We
look good in
will
her
have
dress.
to.
She's gonna have food. I'm just letting you know that I'm gonna be packing my own sandwich. But no, seriously. But it really does help. And then you kind of build the
Mhm.
budget around that. So when you were talking to when we initially were meeting, and then it's like the planner gets the data dump from the bride. So let's pretend somebody's listening to this who's a bride and who doesn't hire a wedding planner, right? Let's say they're doing it just with their sister. And so if the sister is going to play planner, then what you do is you just take out that Excel spreadsheet and you start, you know, you can find from Chat GPT or you can find from the internet all the different components of a wedding and put that on the spreadsheet. And then what I think helps is you kind of highlight the key pieces that are the most important so that you don't lose sight of those. And what's important is that the whole spreadsheet can't be highlighted, right? So you're going to highlight and then that way you know you can have a range. You can have one
Mhm.
column that's low, one column that's high, and maybe you know a middle column that's kind of like the most likely where it's going to land, so that you can have totals, and and then keep coming back to these are the key pieces. And so if you have to cut, you can cut in a certain place because some people are absolutely obsessed with millions and millions and millions of flowers. And I am a big gardener. I love flowers more than anything. But I do think there are some really great ways that you can cut back on the floral budget, because sometimes,
Mhm.
like, where, like, when you get married, whether it's under the huppah or get married under some kind of arch or something, people don't realize how many flowers get swallowed up in
Mhm.
just that space where both of you stand. Now, to play devil's advocate, it's also really important because that's where the photos are, right? So you want to keep that in mind. 1 to 10, how important would you say flowers are to you?
I think I want a little bit, but I've decided I think florals are especially expensive in London.
Yeah.
Like, I think in California, you can
Oh,
find
yeah.
some more inexpensive florals, but I think for me, it just isn't I'd rather spend elsewhere. I want some flowers, like, of course, there will be some, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's gonna be a huge part of our budget.
Is there anywhere where you and Matt disagreed? Like,
Hmm.
don't tell me he disagrees on the dress, because then I'll take care of him on my
No,
own.
he gets that.
Like, did he say, "Oh, Ashley, we don't want to spend that much on a band," or was he like,
No,
"Okay,
he's the
no"?
one who's pushing the band.
Oh, really? Okay, got it.
Well, he has seen this band perform, so I think he was really keen to book them. I'm trying to think. We've been pretty aligned on most things. Yeah, I actually think we're pretty aligned on most things. I don't think there's anything that invitations were something that I was thinking about wanting to do well, but I think once we thought more about it, it's probably an area that we aren't gonna go crazy on because
Yeah.
it's one of those things that you can spend a ton,
Oh,
but you can
yes.
also send really nice invitations. So,
Yes.
I think we still need to figure that out, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's an area of disagreement, it's more of just, like, a decision we'll make.
Okay, well, since my friend at CC New York listens to the podcast, CC, I swear I didn't tell her not to spend money on invitations, because you would be my first choice. So if the invitations are important to you brides out there, go check out CC New York, because they are the bomb. All right. So the other thing to keep in mind is your wedding is in London. The
Mhm.
contracts are all in pounds. So what's really significant is your family, any aspect of it that your family is paying for,
Yeah.
because you're earning your money in British pounds, your Matt is, and his family obviously is the same thing. But that's something really to keep in mind as far as destination weddings, whether it's London or, Bermuda
Yeah.
or Barbados, whatever, is the exchange rate. And these days, with so much conflict around the world,
Yeah.
this can make a huge, huge difference. So did you you're and you're a numbers girl. So did you figure that into the budget? Were you like, "Hey, listen, we've got a plan for this swing, for your portion," or
Because the budget I think we've been pretty good about not going crazy so far on the budget.
right.
I think it was less around making decisions around bigger things,
Yeah.
but I think it maybe will affect, like, timing of payments. Luckily, like, most payments aren't due until like, they're due over time.
Yeah.
So, we're kind of figuring that out because the dollar's gone down quite significantly over the last few months. So,
Yeah.
it's definitely something we're considering because I mean, when it's an expensive wedding,
Yep. It
it
makes a big
can
difference.
really make a big difference, yeah.
Yeah. Now, can you talk to people about that? And so if they're not
Yeah.
familiar, if they haven't traveled, like, what do you have VAT taxes on for a wedding, let's say in London? Because a lot of
Mhm.
people just have no idea what that even is.
Effectively a sales tax, it's usually included in the quoted price.
Okay.
So, if you see £100, that
Right.
includes that. And they'll usually then charge a service charge on top of that,
Yep.
which is not included. So you add, let's say 15% or £15. Usually they'll be pretty good about like it's in everything from food to products to everything. So I would say though, it's not when you see a price, it is included. So
Mhm.
you don't need to factor it in addition to the price you see, but you do need to assume that there will be an additional service charge, which typically is not discretionary.
Got it. You mean, and that's gonna be on food and the venue type of thing? Or is it gonna
Yeah,
be a service charge on other stuff
food.
too?
I think it's everything: food, venue, security, all of it,
Really?
I
That which
think.
is that's different than we have in the States, because For us,
Yeah.
the venue, like the venue, food, beverages, labor, of course, all
Mhm.
associated with the venue, we know we're going to have a service charge, but you don't usually have
Yeah.
a service charge on entertainment. So that's something else that's important to point
Yeah.
out. And then how have you budgeted for surprise stuff like tips
Mhm.
or like, oh, whoops, the shipping is going to be extra
Mhm.
or have you?
We haven't really. We're trying to be like, for example, we in speaking with the venue, found out that there might be like, basically, they use a third party to run their AV system.
Which is very
And
common. That I should underscore. That's very common, by the way, even in the US. And I know in a lot of countries is not just Britain. So that's something to keep in mind is when they sub it out to a third party, A, do you have to use that third party? B, if you can bring in your own, sometimes you can save money. You just want to make sure you bring in a reputable one, but you also want to make sure that that the venue doesn't say something like, "Oh yeah, you can bring in your own AV," but then there's a buyout to not use their
yeah.
AV, and then plus you have your regular AV. So that's what I would consider some comes in under surprises. And we're still
Mhm.
speaking of surprises, we're still not saying where the venue is, but we will get to that on another episode. Are they telling you that you have to use their AV?
Well, they said it's there, and if you wanna use it, you have to pay an additional fee for it, and to find out what that fee is, you need to connect with their third party.
Hmm.
And the band that we're going with has done events at this venue, so we were gonna try to understand from them because they bring all their own equipment, but I
Yeah,
think we will wanna use, like, ceiling lights,
yeah,
so we'll probably need to get a quote for that. But those are, like, it's the kinda thing that's, like, it's not in the contract, and if you
right,
ask about it, it's a bit ambiguous, like, you just
yeah,
don't know. For the bar, we there's no, like, per person open bar charge, you just pay for every drink.
yeah.
So we built, like, a little table to kind of figure out how many drinks people
Of
will have, just
course
to
you
kinda
can.
get a rough
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
And then, yeah, just so we can price out, like, how bad could it be.
Yeah. It can
Um,
be bad, by the way.
yeah, because you don't wanna assume it's gonna be, I don't know, one number, and then you see something triple or quadruple that. So and that all went into, I think, deciding if we were gonna choose this venue. So but I assume that there will be surprises around everything from food and beverage to
Yeah,
AV to florals,
yeah.
everything.
Now, a couple things to keep in mind. There are ways to keep the bar budget down. So, an
Mhm,
after party is really important to you. It's like a lot of times you can get away with an open bar, total open bar, beforehand. And then people do like just wine and obviously non-alcoholic drinks, but like just wine at the dinner.
mhm.
And that helps a bit. I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, but that is something to consider. One thing I will just tell you, and I'm sure I'm going to get tons of hate mail, is under no circumstances ever do I think you should have your guests pay for a cash bar. I know you're not doing that, but just
Mm-mm.
that's like one of those etiquette things that comes up. And I think it's absolutely horrendous. And then one thing that was interesting though is the corkage fees. We found those to be pretty high.
Really high, yeah.
And do you
Because
think that's just
they
the venue, or do you think that's kind of England or Europe or
I don't think it's Europe. I think, it's probably just the hotel. I think they're really trying to encourage you to use their product, and,
yeah,
like, they're basically saying, "Sure, you can bring your own, but it's not cheaper."
yeah.
Um,
Definitely exactly. If you're gonna do it, it's not gonna be cheaper and it's gonna be a pain in the neck. Yeah.
yeah, they don't offer a ton of options on food and champagne. It's nice, I think, but
Yeah.
it's pretty limited.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is what you can do is even if you have, an open bar,
Mhm,
you can still pre-select like house red or like whatever your quote house red or white is going to be or what your champagne is going to be. And then you can still also put parameters in there like people cannot order shots of like sometimes it's shots of anything, right? That can
mhm,
really help because you get somebody who's on the wedding circuit who knows how to do this and it's like, oh, it's an open bar. Awesome. I'll have XYZ number shots of 1942 or something that's even a lot more expensive than that. And that's where it starts
mhm.
really getting up there. And then you can
Yeah.
also do specialty cocktails if you want people to have let's say, something with vodka, something with tequila, but not have it completely go crazy. That's going to ultimately cut down a
Mhm.
little bit. And were there anything that like Matt's parents said was really important to them that you wanted
Mm.
to incorporate or not yet?
Um, I think that's a good question. Not yet, really. I think it's mostly just been we all want it to be like a pretty seamless evening.
Yeah.
So, like questions around where the ceremony will be and how that and getting to the venue or reception
Yeah.
because they are at two different locations.
Yeah. And
That's
traffic
gonna
in London is a big thing. And that is
yeah.
where there are going to be surprise costs for sure.
Yeah.
Because then a lot of time people don't realize too, like with limos or with transportation, they think, oh, hey, can you just transport us in between, the ceremony to the venue and then like, go off and get a sandwich for a few hours. And it's like, no, you pay waiting time, even if those buses or the special cars are just hanging out,
Yeah.
you're absolutely paying for them because they can't do another gig in the meantime. So that
Right.
can kind of go in the category of expenses. I mean, excuse me, of
Mhm.
surprise expenses. Is your count so far staying pretty true to what you thought it was going to be originally, or have you adjusted that at all to fit the budget?
We originally started with just like, let's just make a guest list and see how many people we put on this.
Right.
We went through it a few times, combed it, added some people, removed some people, and then we kind of got it to a place of we had two versions. One was like, if we want to keep this smaller, what does it look like? And then
Yeah.
the other was if we invite everyone we really want to invite.
Right.
I think we're gonna go with because the venue like originally we were looking at a few venues that had numbers restrictions,
Yeah.
and that was the rationale behind the kind of slimmer list. But I think given it's in London and a lot of our guests are gonna be flying in, I think there's a high probability that we won't get like, our acceptance rate could be lower than
Yeah.
normal. So I think we'll try to include
Yeah.
everyone we can.
Those are the cases where I always say freaking invite them all because you
Yeah,
get massive credit for inviting them. And the family of four isn't going to travel. So that's, yay, they're
yeah,
included. And
yeah.
that's pretty cool. Now, what do you think about Instagram or Pinterest? And that's one of the things we're going to be kind of unleashing through this as this podcast goes is releasing your Pinterest board and stuff like that. What do you think about Instagram and Pinterest in terms of how they've influenced you and your planning? Or has TikTok influenced you? Or like what else has influenced you or not influenced you in terms of social media?
It's a good question. I think I like being from California originally. I mean, I've been to a lot of different weddings, but I kind of had a vision for what I thought my wedding would look like. But then being in England, I kind of wanted to expand the options and have a vision for what something different could look like. So
Yeah.
that's where I really turned to Pinterest and TikTok. And I'd put in everything from like city wedding to like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I started to kind of get a sense of what I really liked. And I think that also helped inform like the venue choice
Yeah.
as well as helping me kind of figure out in terms of decor what I really wanted and what mattered
Right.
and kind of really forming a vision for the day
Yeah.
and the dress and everything. So, yeah, I think Pinterest and TikTok have been really helpful for me.
And then how have you used, if you have, how have you used ChatGPT? Or not necessarily just ChatGPT, but I should say AI.
I've asked it like for cost estimates.
Yeah.
I asked it an insurance question.
Oh, good. Okay.
And it was kind of helpful, but not that helpful. I don't know if it really knows much about insurance for weddings or events. And then
Did it help you create your table for your drinks, like how much people were going to drink or any of that
no,
stuff?
that was just me
That
playing
was
around
just
with.
you,
I
your,
created different types of guests with different drinking
oh, there you go. Okay.
tendencies.
Algorithms.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it.
I mean, even for like, I was looking at venues in the Cotswolds and I was like, what are hotels near this
Right.
venue?
Right.
What cities can I stay in? And the answer was like, all hotels are 30 minutes from your venue. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, then that's not going to work instead of
Yeah.
spending time on Google Maps. So I think
Right.
it kind of helps you answer some questions pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
And one of my go-to things, because I love AI, I'm afraid of it in the sense of Not that it's going to take everybody's jobs, but I am afraid of it in the sense of I think it is going to get smarter than us one day and swallow us all up. But that being said, I do love where you ask it whatever specific question you want, and then you come back with like, what else should I be asking you that I haven't, meaning to chat GPT? Like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm doing what, and to me, AI is all about the question and setting up, not just like, I'm getting married and I have a party group of 50. How much are they going to eat or how much are they going to drink? But like giving all the specifics, like, I'm getting married in the Cotswolds with a wedding of 200 guests, and then you give the age range and you give the male and female component, you give the time of year, because what really affects drinks and food and consumption massively is weather, time of day, young versus old, and as I say, temperature, but then like male versus female too. Because I mean, we've done some corporate stuff where we'll have, the, I'm making this up, American Beef Society or whatever, and it's all men, coming in for a conference, and you better believe your food and beverage prices are going to be very high because they are not going to be like, oh, let's have a little, light past hors d'oeuvres of this or that. They want to eat. And then the other thing too is sometimes it's like you think, oh, well, young people are going to be big drinkers, but if you've got a lot of older people who are used to like really good scotch or something, that's another way where it can really ratchet up. And then if it's a destination where, everybody's going to be on the party bus type of thing, or you're doing the equivalent of Uber vouchers and everybody knows they don't have to drive, that everything that changes the picture massively, because if people think, oh, guess what, I don't have to worry about drinking and driving because I'm on their bus, then you're set. Now, one of the things that I do want to bring up for people who are listening to this is that I do think it is one of the most important things right out the gate to decide the venue, because the venue really does set it's kind of like the hub, and then you've got, all the spokes of the wheel. The thing that where couples I think do blow money or can really make a mistake with this is not doing what we're talking about, which is that like being in a rush to pick the venue without kind of formulating the other components that are going to be part of that budget with that venue, right? And like you said, if it's the Cotswolds, you're going to have a lot more in terms of transportation fees,
Mhm.
and one of the things we talked about, like if something goes wrong, you're much more limited out in the country than you are going to be in London, where whether it's ice or anything else. So I do think that's one place where people can make big mistakes early. The other thing too is I really encourage clients to put the whole budget together like on a spreadsheet before you start massively knocking out deposits, because once you start signing contracts and paying those deposits, you're locked in. And keep in mind, you can't usually just say, oh, I'm going to change the date, or I'm going to change the day, or I'm going to, it just doesn't work that way. And I know I've heard so many times people get upset with venues. They're like, well, I just was going to change this or that. It's like, yeah, but they've turned down so many bookings since you called them and tried to secure it. So those are a couple places that people can make mistakes early. What about like, were there any mistakes that you kind of almost made that you didn't make, or that you know some of your friends have made that were like, oh my gosh, don't do that?
I had one friend commit to a venue just to, like, lock it in because they
Hmm.
were afraid it would
Yeah.
go, but they ended up switching venues because they found something. So they lost, like, I think 25% of the deposit.
Yeah.
So I think making trying to rush a decision.
Yeah.
I think we just after reviewing the contract, like, there are just a few things that you should think through and push back on or get more clarity on. There's a couple things that they've said verbally but haven't put in writing, so I
Oh,
think
that's huge. That I'm so glad you brought that
yeah.
up, because one of the things that I'll do is, even if like you're going to talk to the venue or a vendor or something,
Mhm.
and let's say I'm not there, not part of the conversation, at the very least, you chat with the person and then, hey, we just got off the phone, and per our conversation, we just discussed this, and this.
Mhm.
And if I've missed anything, please let me know. Otherwise, are we good to go? Because so much gets lost in translation. No joke. Is you hear it one way, they hear it another way, and then there's vernacular with respect to events like load in and strike and stuff like that that the average person isn't used
Mhm.
to dealing with. And or let's not forget too is sometimes you're talking to a planner and that planner's then not with the venue anymore, right? And you could have had a great relationship with them for 6 months, and then all of a sudden they switch over and the new planner or the new GM or the hotel's bought out and they're like, oh, I don't have anything on that. So no matter what it is, how insignificant it seems to you, is get it in writing, even if it's just in an email, or even if
Yeah.
it's just if you're texting about something. And the other thing too, I always
Mhm.
recommend is that you forward the text to yourself and then just say, hey, this is what we were texting about, this, and this, and we confirmed this, and this
Mm.
at this price, you know, with no extra tax or surcharge or minimums. But in terms of pricing, that's one of the things I always ask, like, what's the minimum? What's the shipping charge? Like, are there any extra setup fees? Those are
Mhm.
kind of just in general. And that's another great place I think you can use AI where you can say, hey, what should I be asking that I'm not? Or like what are some hidden costs that I should look out for? And the other thing is remember that just by asking a venue or asking somebody to clarify a price or ask them if they can lower it, it doesn't mean you're cheap. It just means you're smart. And they can always say no, but it doesn't hurt to ask. And sometimes they'll say, "Yeah, I'll waive the room fee." There's some places that they really can waive things. And so I think it doesn't hurt to ask.
Mhm.
So, what's on your mind that you want to that you're kind of like, "Oh, I got to get that done." Like what because you're a little more than a year out. You got a lot
Yeah.
of things knocked out early on, which is great.
Yeah.
But what's keeping you up at night these days?
I think it's just locking everything in. Like, we have a or hold on the hotel or the
Mhm.
venue.
Yeah.
The band, we need to pay like, we just need to pay deposits to
Yeah.
everyone, which I think we're ready to do.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of making sure that all the pieces are in place because
Yeah.
you obviously don't wanna pay the band until you've secured the venue,
Exactly.
and you don't wanna secure the transportation from
Correct.
the ceremony to the reception
Right.
until the ceremony place is confirmed and you have the deposit there. So it's kind of getting everything in a somewhat organized sequence
Yeah.
locked in.
And then also the piece of you don't wanna give the band the deposit only to find out because, like, in the States, we call them
Mhm.
riders, right? And in Southern California, you always hear about, like, J Lo as a rider where she can't have blue M&Ms. I'm making that one up, but you hear about
Mhm.
these crazy things. But that happens with regular bands, where they're like part of their rider is that they're all vegan. They're going to have XYZ food delivered at this time. They're going to
Yeah.
this kind of bottled water, this amount, this,
Yeah.
or this size green room. Those riders can go till the cows come home. So you definitely want to
Yeah.
make sure that you see the riders and also, like in your case, the AV. Because the other thing
Mhm.
is, or another thing to keep in mind, like in certain parts of the states, you know, and it could be in California, some venues can have it and some can't, where you've got union workers, right? So that is so important because let's say it is the band says, yeah, we have the AV company that we use all the time. And the AV company gives them a bid, but then the planner or somebody, and this is a great time to like where you can lean on a planner. But is there a charge? Like, will the venue allow that? And if they will allow an outside company, like if they're a union venue, then how is that going to affect the price? Right. Because sometimes
Yeah.
the AV company, they are allowed to bring the stuff to the venue, but then the venue has to take it from XYZ spot to the next spot. It's just everybody's got different rules. So those are kind of some of the gotcha clauses. But well, I think this is cool. The other thing I would say to people, you're really organized, but if somebody is kind of not sure where to start and it feels like, oh my gosh, I have like all these contracts to sign and payments to make and everything is create that spreadsheet. And like we have spreadsheets for our clients where it's like the deposit amount, the deposit is due, was it paid, when is the balance due? And it is totally customary for all these payments in full, unless you get very lucky, to be made
Mhm.
absolutely well before the date. So you're not going to get away with, at least in my experience, you're not going to get away with, oh, can we just pay like as it gets closer or after the event? No,
Mhm.
everybody's going to have you pay in full before, well before you step foot at that rehearsal dinner. So,
Yeah.
all right. Anything else you want to toss out?
Yeah, the picking the venue, I think, was just the key thing for us. I think
Yeah.
it was anchored really everything, and I think even just exploring all of the venues
Yeah.
really helped you get us get a sense of price and
Yeah.
kind of form a budget. Because I
Yeah.
think it's hard to really conceptualize what the budget should even start at
Right.
without kind of understanding where venues start
Yeah.
for how many people you have. So, yeah.
And they
I
aren't apples to apples. That's the other thing. Like I'm a total numbers girl and I love it, but sometimes I will even take a pencil and a piece of paper and be like,
Mhm.
venue fee. And then because some places bundle it all into one.
Mhm.
Some people have it all as different line items. There's like a security charge and a this charge and a that charge and a load in charge and a, all that
Yeah.
stuff. And so sometimes it's, line item by line item. Sometimes it's all bundled, and sometimes it's like you don't know if you don't ask, and then it just gets added
Mhm.
on. So,
Yeah.
and then these days, I don't know what they're doing in London. I'm sure I'll find out very quickly, but we have like 3.5%, 4% credit card fees now are customary here
Mhm.
for events. And in the old days, we used to always have to absorb those, right, for clients. But these days, now people are tacking them on, and that can get really hefty. So if you say, "Hey, listen, this is great because I'm going to have points, for my Amex," but you got to make sure if you're paying 3.5%, usually the points aren't worth it. So
Yeah.
anyway, keep that in mind. All right, Miss Ashley. Well, thanks for another great podcast on budget. And next one, episode 3 for Ashley's glamorous London wedding, will all be about securing that venue in another country, all the deep dive into that, and more just on like what to look for and how to pick your vibe. So this was a fun one. Ashley, you're a great sport. And as a reminder, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe. Please make sure you're notified about when a new episode drops, which is every Wednesday. And most importantly, if you have somebody who's getting married, a friend, a daughter, a cousin, a relative, whatever, forward them the series so that they can follow Ashley and her journey from getting engaged in Paris all the way down the aisle in London. All right. So I'm Marley Major signing off with Ashley on another episode of Every Day's a Train Wreck. And we will see you next week. And Ashley will see you next month.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye.